The doctor looked at my husband, then he looked at me, then back at his chart, and he asked one simple question. Mr. Carter, your records show Patricia Carter as your wife and emergency contact, but this woman here says she's your wife too. Can you explain that? My husband's face went white. I'm talking ghost white. Like somebody had just pulled the plug on his whole life. And me, I'm standing there in my scrubs in the hospital where I worked for 15 years, watching the man I married 12 years ago turn into a complete stranger right in front of my eyes. 12 years. Exposed by one question from a doctor who didn't even know what he was uncovering. Who is Patricia? I asked. Raymond couldn't even look at me. That's when I knew. That's when my whole world collapsed. Because what I discovered next wasn't just a secret. It wasn't just an affair. It wasn't just lies. My husband had a whole other wife. 18 years married to her. 3 children with her. A whole entire life I knew nothing about. I thought I was his wife. Turns out I was the other woman. For 12 years. And I had no idea. But here's the thing about finding out your whole marriage is a fraud. It either destroys you or it sets you on fire. I chose fire. And by the time I was done with Raymond Carter, he wished that doctor had never opened his mouth. If you've ever had that gut feeling that something wasn't right, that your man was hiding something, hit that subscribe button right now. Like this video because this story is about to blow your mind. And comment below, tell me where you're watching from. I want to know how many of my sisters have been through something like this. Now, let me take you back to the beginning. Let me show you how I fell in love with a man who never existed. I met Raymond Carter 14 years ago at a community health fair. I was 24 years old, fresh out of nursing school, volunteering at a blood pressure screening booth. Just trying to give back to my community, you know. This man walked up to my booth wearing a suit that probably cost more than my rent, clean-shaven, nice smile, smelling like success and expensive cologne. He looked at me and said, "Nurse, I think my heart might be racing. You should probably check that out." Now I know what you're thinking. That line was corny as hell, and you're right. It was. But the way he said it with those eyes locked on mine like I was the only woman in that whole convention center, something in me just melted. I checked his blood pressure. It was perfect. Of course it was. The man was smooth. He knew exactly what he was doing. We talked for 20 minutes at that booth. He told me he was in pharmaceutical sales, regional manager. Good job, good money, but he had to travel a lot for work. I remember thinking, okay, he's successful, he's driven, he's building something. He asked for my number. I gave it to him. By our 3rd date, I was hooked. Raymond wasn't like the other men I'd dated. He wasn't intimidated by the fact that I had a career. He wasn't threatened by my ambition. He celebrated it. I love a woman who can hold her own, he told me. Most men want a woman they can control. I want a woman I can respect. Girl, I ate that up. I thought I had found the one. A real man, a grown man. Somebody who saw me as a partner, not a possession. He was generous with his time when he was around. Generous with his money. He would surprise me with flowers for no reason. Take me to nice restaurants. Plan little getaways when his work schedule allowed. But looking back, that's exactly how he designed it. He made our time together feel so special that I never questioned why it was so limited. He made every moment count so I wouldn't count the moments he wasn't there. The proposal came 2 years in. We were at this little Italian restaurant, our spot. Candlelight red wine, Dean Martin playing in the background. He got down on one knee and pulled out a ring that took my breath away. "Denise, I know my work keeps me away more than I'd like. But when I'm on those business trips, all I can think about is getting back to you. I want to spend the rest of my life coming home to you. Will you marry me?" I said yes before he even finished the question. My grandmother. God rest her soul. She was still alive back then. She had her doubts. She pulled me aside at the engagement party. "Baby, what do you really know about this man? Where's his family? Why haven't we met anybody from his side?" Raymond had told me his parents passed away years ago, said he was an only child, no extended family to speak of. It was sad, really, or at least that's what I thought. "It's just us against the world, Grandma," I told her. "That's what he always says." She gave me that look, that grandmother look that said she knew something I didn't, but she didn't push. She just said, "Baby, you're grown. Just promise me you'll keep your eyes open." I promised. And then I closed my eyes for 12 years. The wedding was small. Raymond insisted on that, said he didn't like big productions, preferred something intimate and meaningful. Looking back, I know exactly why he wanted it small. Fewer questions, fewer people who might know something, fewer chances of his lie falling apart. None of his friends came. He said they were all work colleagues who couldn't get away. His side of the church had maybe 15 people, distant acquaintances he called them, but I didn't care. I was so in love, so sure I was making the right decision, so ready to start my life with this man. I paid for most of the wedding. Raymond was between bonuses, he said. I didn't mind. We were a team. What was mine was his, and what was his was mine. That's what marriage is, right? If only I had known what was really his. The first years of marriage felt like a dream. A complicated dream, sure, but a dream. Raymond traveled every other week like clockwork, Monday through Friday, sometimes into Saturday. He said it was the nature of pharmaceutical sales. Territory meetings, hospital visits, conferences. I was working long shifts at the hospital, 12 hours, sometimes more. By the time I got home, I was exhausted. I didn't have the energy to question his schedule. I just missed him when he was gone and loved on him when he was there. We bought a house in year 3. Nice neighborhood, 3 bedrooms, room to grow. I put down the full payment from my savings. My grandmother had left me some money when she passed, and I used every penny to secure our future. Raymond suggested putting the house in my name only. Said it was better for taxes. Said if anything ever happened to his business, we wouldn't want creditors coming after our home. I thought he was being smart, being protective, looking out for our family. Turns out he was looking out for himself. Because a house in my name meant a house his other wife couldn't touch. I just didn't know that other wife existed. We tried for children. Well, I tried. Raymond always had an excuse. Let's wait until my business is more stable. Let's wait until you're further along in your nursing career. Let's wait until we've traveled more, lived more. I was patient. I thought we had time. I was a nurse. I knew my body. I knew the risks of waiting too long. But I trusted him. I believed him when he said he wanted children eventually. Now I know the truth. He didn't want children with me because he already had children. 3 of them, with his real wife, Patricia. Every time I mentioned wanting a baby, he was probably thinking about the children he already had, the ones he was raising with another woman, the ones I knew nothing about. Year after year I waited, and year after year he lied. But the worst part, I was happy. That's what kills me. I was genuinely happy in that marriage. I loved my husband. I loved our life. I loved coming home to our house, cooking our dinners, sleeping in our bed. I had no idea I was only borrowing a man who belonged to someone else. 12 years. 12 years of loving a ghost. 12 years of building a life with a liar. 12 years of being the other woman and not even knowing it. Until that day in the hospital. Until that one question from a doctor who was just doing his job. Until my whole world came crashing down around me. People always ask me after they hear my story. They say, "Denise, how did you not know? 12 years and you never suspected anything." And here's what I tell them. I did suspect, many times, but Raymond had an answer for everything, and I wanted to believe him more than I wanted to know the truth. Let me tell you about the red flags, the ones I saw and ignored, the ones that kept me up at night sometimes, the ones that make me feel foolish now. The 2 phones. Raymond carried 2 cell phones everywhere he went. He said one was personal, one was for work. That seemed normal, right? A lot of salespeople have separate work phones, but here's what wasn't normal. He never answered that work phone in front of me. Not once in 12 years. Whenever it rang, he would look at the screen and then he would leave the room. Every single time. "Boring work stuff," he would say. "You don't want to hear about quotas and inventory." And I believed him, because I wanted to believe him, because the alternative was too painful to consider. The schedule. Raymond traveled every other week, Monday through Friday, sometimes through Saturday, like clockwork. In 12 years, not once did that schedule change. Not for Christmas, not for Thanksgiving, not for my birthday if it fell during his week, not for our anniversary. Business doesn't stop for holidays, baby, but I'll make it up to you when I get back. And he always did make it up to me. Flowers, fancy dinners, jewelry, guilt gifts. That's what they were. I just didn't recognize them. No family. Raymond said both his parents died before we met. Said he was an only child. Said he had no aunts or uncles, no cousins, no extended family at all. "It's just you and me against the world," he used to say. I thought it was romantic. Just the two of us building our own little family from scratch. But it was calculated. Every word was calculated. No family meant no one who might accidentally slip up. No one who might mention Patricia. No one who might wonder why his wife looked different than they remembered. No social media. In this day and age, Raymond had zero social media presence. None. He said it was unprofessional, said it was invasive, said real men don't put their lives on display for strangers. But you know what no social media really means? It means no photos someone might see, no tagged locations, no friends from his past who might comment something suspicious, no digital trail for his other life. I thought he was principled. Turns out he was just careful. The money. This one bothers me the most. Raymond was supposed to be a regional sales manager. Good job, good salary, good bonuses. But he was always a little short. Every month there was something. His bonus was delayed. His commission check got held up. He had unexpected business expenses. "Baby, can you cover the car payment this month just until my check clears?" "Baby, I need to invest in this new territory. Can you spot me until the deal closes?" "Baby, times are tight right now. Can you handle the mortgage for a few months?" I did the math later. Over 12 years, I covered about $85,000 of his expenses, $85,000 of my hard-earned money. Money I thought I was investing in our future. But Raymond wasn't short on cash because business was bad. He was short because he was funding 2 households on one salary, 2 mortgages, 2 sets of bills, 2 lives, and I was subsidizing his other family without even knowing they existed. The excuses. Whenever I questioned anything, Raymond had an explanation ready. Smooth, convincing. Made me feel crazy for even asking. "Why are you always on your phone?" "Work emergency, baby. You know how demanding this industry is. Why can't you ever change your travel schedule?" "I would if I could, baby, but I have to provide for us. This is how I take care of you." "Why do you never talk about your childhood?" "It's painful, baby. I'd rather focus on building our future than dwelling on the past. Why don't any of your friends ever come around? I keep work and home separate, baby. You're my peace. I don't want to mix that with work stress." He had an answer for everything, and every answer made me feel like I was being paranoid, being insecure, being that jealous wife who doesn't trust her man. I started apologizing for asking questions. Can you believe that I would bring up something that bothered me, he would explain it away, and then I would apologize for doubting him? He gaslit me for 12 years, and I let him. My neighbor, Miss Ernestine, she saw things. Old people see things that younger folks miss. One afternoon, about 3 years into my marriage, I was sitting on her porch drinking sweet tea. She looked at me with those wise old eyes and said, "Baby, a man who's always leaving is a man who's always going somewhere. You ever wonder where?" I laughed it off. "He's working Miss Ernestine. That's how he provides." She just nodded slowly. "Mm-hmm. If you say so, baby. If you say so." I should have listened. That woman had been married for 52 years before her husband passed. She knew what a real marriage looked like. She could smell something rotten in mine. But I wasn't ready to hear it. I wasn't ready to accept that the life I thought I was building might be built on lies. My best friend, Lori. She worked with me at the hospital. She had concerns too. "Girl, I'm not trying to start nothing, but doesn't it seem strange that Raymond is never around for the important stuff? I've known you 8 years, and I've met your husband maybe 10 times. I defended him every time. "He travels for work, Lori. Not everyone has a 9 to 5. Lori would just shake her head. "Okay, sis, I'm just saying. Something don't sit right with me." Lori was right. Something didn't sit right. But I was too deep in love to see it. Too invested in the life I thought we had. Too afraid of what I might find if I looked too closely. So I closed my eyes. For 12 years, I kept them closed. The health scare. About 6 months before everything fell apart, I started getting sick. Stress, the doctor said. My blood pressure was through the roof. I was having chest pains, trouble sleeping. You're carrying too much, my doctor told me. Your body is trying to tell you something. I thought it was work. The hospital had been crazy busy. I was pulling double shifts covering for nurses on maternity leave. I thought my body was just tired. But looking back, I think my body knew the truth before my mind did. Something was wrong in my life. Something was eating at me from the inside. My gut was screaming at me, but I wasn't listening. My grandmother used to say, the body keeps the score, baby, even when the mind doesn't want to play. She was right. My body was telling me that everything I believed was a lie. I just wasn't ready to hear it. But I was about to find out, in the worst possible way, at the worst possible time. Because while I was ignoring red flags and making excuses, life was setting up the moment that would change everything. The moment when a routine doctor's visit would expose 20 years of deception. The day my husband's lies finally caught up to him. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were supposed to be my easy days. Paperwork, follow-up calls, no emergencies. That's how Tuesdays usually went. I was in the middle of charting when my charge nurse pulled me aside. Her face told me something was wrong before her words did. Denise, there's been an emergency. Your husband collapsed at work. They're bringing him here. My heart stopped. Whatever doubts I might have had about Raymond, whatever red flags I had ignored, none of that mattered in that moment. All I knew was that my husband was hurt and I needed to get to him. I ran to the emergency room, literally ran. Down the halls, I had walked 1,000 times past the rooms where I had saved lives and lost lives, pushing through doors that led to everything I never wanted to find. When I got there, Raymond was conscious but confused. They had him hooked up to monitors running tests. Possible cardiac event, they said. Possible stroke. They weren't sure yet. He looked scared. In 12 years, I had never seen Raymond look scared. He was always so calm, so collected, so in control of everything. But lying in that hospital bed, he looked like a little boy lost in a big world. Baby. He grabbed my hand when he saw me. I'm so glad you're here. I'm not going anywhere, I told him. I'm right here. And I meant it. Whatever was happening, we would face it together. That's what marriage was, in sickness and in health. I remembered those vows. I lived those vows. Too bad he never did. The ER was chaos that day. Multiple traumas coming in. A car accident on the highway. A construction site incident. The regular ER doctors were overwhelmed. They had called in coverage from other hospitals in the network. That's how Dr. Marcus Webb ended up in my husband's room. A covering physician from Memorial General, just doing his job, just following protocol. He had no idea what he was about to uncover. Webb walked in with his tablet scrolling through Raymond's medical history. He had this focused expression the kind doctors get when something doesn't add up. Mr. Carter, he said, still looking at his screen. I need to verify some information. I'm seeing records from 2 different facilities and there are some discrepancies. Raymond's hand tightened on mine. Just slightly. Just enough for me to notice. What kind of discrepancies? I asked. Medical discrepancies can be serious. Wrong medications, wrong allergies, wrong dosages. It matters. Dr. Webb kept scrolling, his frown deepening. Well, his records from Memorial General from about 3 years ago, they list a different emergency contact and spouse. A Patricia Carter, same last name listed as wife. He looked up at me. I was standing there in my scrubs, my badge clearly reading Denise Carter, RN. I'm assuming there's been a divorce and remarriage, Dr. Webb asked. I just need to update the file with the correct information. The room went silent, not hospital silent. Dead silent. I looked at Raymond. Raymond looked at the floor, and in that moment, everything I thought I knew about my life crumbled to dust. Raymond. My voice didn't sound like mine. It was too calm, too steady, like the eye of a hurricane. Who is Patricia Carter? Baby, it's not what you think. Let me explain. Who is Patricia Carter? The monitors started beeping faster. His heart rate was spiking. Good. Let it spike. Let him feel a fraction of what I was feeling. Dr. Webb realized something was very wrong. This wasn't a medical chart discrepancy. This was something else entirely. "I'll give you a moment," he said, backing toward the door. "I'll be right outside if you need anything." He left, and then it was just me and Raymond, me and the man I thought I married, me and the stranger in the hospital bed. "You have 3 seconds to tell me the truth," I said, "or I swear to God, Raymond, I will walk out of this room and you will never see me again." "She's my wife." 3 words, just 3 little words, but they hit me like a train. "Your wife. We've been married 18 years. We have 3 kids together. Denise, please, you have to let me explain. 18 years, 3 children. The math didn't work. I had been married to this man for 12 years. If he was married to Patricia for 18 years, that meant you were married when you met me." "Yes, but it's complicated. Patricia and we were having problems. I was going to leave, and then I met you and everything changed." "You were married at our wedding." "Technically, yes, but in my heart I was with you. You're the one I really love, Denise. Patricia was a mistake from the past. You have been living a double life for 12 years. I was trying to figure out how to tell you. I was trying to find the right time. I never meant for it to go this far." The right time. As if there's ever a right time to tell your wife that she's not really your wife, that she's just the other woman in an elaborate game of deception. I don't remember exactly what happened next. I remember screaming. I remember the monitors going crazy. I remember security being called. I remember my colleagues, people I had worked with for 15 years, pulling me out of that room before I did something I couldn't take back. I remember standing in the hallway, hyperventilating while Lori held me and told me to breathe. "Breathe, Denise. Just breathe. We're going to figure this out." But how? How do you figure out that your entire marriage was a lie? How do you process that? The man you loved, the life you built, the future you planned, none of it was real. Patricia Carter, married 18 years, 3 children. Raymond Jr., 17 years old. Maya, 14 years old. Christian, 11 years old. I learned their names later, their ages, their schools, their lives. The lives my husband had been living while pretending to live with me. He had been with Patricia when his first child was born. He had looked into his newborn son's eyes and then come home to me pretending to be exhausted from a business trip. He had been with his children on Christmas mornings while I woke up alone believing he was stuck at a conference. He had been at their birthday parties while I was covering extra shifts because he said he needed time to close deals. Every memory I had of our marriage was tainted now. Every "I love you" was a lie. Every promise was broken before it was ever made. I wasn't his wife. I was never his wife. I was a convenience, a backup plan, a comfortable lie he told himself while he played house with another woman. But here's what Raymond didn't understand. Here's what he failed to calculate in all his careful planning. I wasn't the kind of woman who falls apart. I wasn't the kind of woman who cries and begs and asks why. I was a nurse. I had held people's lives in my hands. I had made decisions in seconds that meant the difference between life and death. And I had just received the worst diagnosis of my life. But unlike my patients, I didn't need saving. I needed answers. I needed evidence. I needed to understand exactly how deep this deception went. And then I needed to make Raymond Carter pay for every single lie he had ever told me. My name is Denise Carter. At least I thought that was my name. Turns out I was never really a Carter at all. But by the time I was done with Raymond, he was going to wish he had never given me that name in the first place. My supervisor sent me home that day. She didn't ask questions. She just looked at my face and knew something had broken inside me. "Denise, you can't work like this. Take some time. Take as much as you need." Time. As if time could fix what had just happened. As if a few days off could undo 12 years of lies. I walked to my car like a zombie, one foot in front of the other, keys in my hand. But when I got there, I couldn't move. I just sat in the driver's seat staring at nothing, trying to make sense of what I had just learned. 18 years, 3 children, a whole other life. My phone kept buzzing. Raymond, over and over again. Baby, please let me explain. It's not what you think. I love you, Denise. Please answer me. I can explain everything. Please, baby, please. I deleted every single one without reading past the first line. There was nothing he could say, nothing that would make this okay, nothing that would put my shattered world back together. I don't know how long I sat in that parking lot. An hour, maybe 2. The sun moved across the sky and I didn't notice. Cars came and went and I didn't see them. I was somewhere else, somewhere between the life I thought I had and the life I actually had. Then my phone buzzed again, a different number this time. Not Raymond. A number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, almost let it go to voicemail. But something made me pick up. Call it instinct. Call it fate. Call it God putting exactly what I needed right in my path. Is this Denise Carter? A woman's voice, tired, strained, like she had been crying for hours. Who is this? My name is Patricia Carter. I think we need to talk. My blood turned to ice. Patricia, the other wife, the real wife, the woman whose husband I had been sleeping with for 12 years. How did you get this number? Raymond's phone. He leaves it at the house sometimes. The other phone, the one you don't know about. I finally looked through it today. I found your contact saved under work medical. She laughed, but it wasn't a real laugh. It was the laugh of a woman whose world was crumbling just like mine. I thought it was his doctor's office, some medical contact from his job. That's why I never checked before. 12 years and I never thought to call the number saved as work medical. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. I was on the phone with my husband's other wife and I had no idea what to say. How long? Patricia asked. How long have you been with my husband? 12 years. We've been married 12 years. Silence. Then sobbing. Deep, gut-wrenching sobbing that came through the phone like a physical force. Married? You're married to him? I thought I was. I had no idea about you. I had no idea about any of this. I've been married to him for 18 years, Denise. 18 years. We have 3 children together, 3 children who think their father travels for work. Her voice broke on the word children, and something in my heart broke too. I didn't know, I said. I swear to you, I didn't know. He told me he was single when we met. He told me his parents were dead, that he had no family. He told me so many lies. He told me the same things. Different lies, same result. We were both fools, Denise. Both of us. We sat in silence for a moment. 2 women on opposite ends of a phone call, united by the same betrayal. 2 wives who had just discovered they were never really wives at all. We need to meet, Patricia said finally. Face to face. I need to look you in the eye and understand how this happened. Part of me wanted to say no. Part of me wanted to hang up and pretend this phone call never happened. Part of me wanted to crawl into a hole and never come out. But a bigger part of me needed answers, needed to understand the full scope of what Raymond had done, needed to see the other half of his double life. Where and when, I asked. There's a coffee shop, neutral territory. 20 minutes from you, 20 minutes from me. Tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. She gave me the address. I wrote it down with shaking hands. Patricia, I said before we hung up. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean anything. But I'm sorry. Don't apologize to me, Denise. Neither of us did anything wrong. We were both victims. The only person who should be sorry is Raymond, and by the time I'm done with him, sorry won't begin to cover it. She hung up, and I sat in my car for another hour, trying to prepare myself for what tomorrow would bring. That night was the longest of my life. I went home to the house I shared with Raymond, the house I had paid for, the house where I had built a life on lies. Everything looked different now. The photos on the wall, the furniture we picked out together, the bedroom where we had slept for 12 years. All of it was tainted. All of it was fake. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Raymond's face, the way he looked when the doctor asked that question, the fear in his eyes. Not fear for our marriage, fear of being caught. He had been afraid of this moment for 12 years, and now it had finally come. Around 3 in the morning, I got up and started going through his things: the closet where he kept his clothes, the drawer where he kept his documents, the box in the garage where he stored old paperwork. I found things I had never noticed before: a second wallet hidden in a coat pocket, different credit cards, a different driver's license with a different address, Patricia's address. I found receipts for gifts I never received, jewelry, flowers, a necklace for a birthday in March. My birthday was in September. I found a phone, a third phone, hidden in a box of old work files. I turned it on and the battery was dead, but I knew there were more secrets on that phone, more lies, more women maybe. How deep did this go? How many lives had Raymond Carter been living? By the time the sun came up, I had a box full of evidence and a heart full of rage. I showered, got dressed, and drove to meet Patricia. It was time to get the full picture. It was time to understand exactly what kind of monster I had married. The coffee shop was small and quiet. Neutral territory, just like Patricia said. I got there 15 minutes early because I couldn't sit at home anymore. I couldn't be in that house surrounded by his lies. I chose a table in the back corner, away from the windows, away from prying eyes. This wasn't a conversation I wanted anyone to overhear. At exactly 10 o'clock, she walked in. I knew it was her the moment I saw her, not because we had exchanged descriptions, but because she looked exactly how I felt. Devastated, exhausted, like someone had reached into her chest and ripped out everything that mattered. Patricia Carter was beautiful. That was my first thought, and I hated myself for thinking it. She was tall, elegant, with natural hair styled in long locks, professional, put together, the kind of woman who commands respect when she walks into a room. She was also clearly falling apart. She spotted me in the corner and walked over. For a moment, we just looked at each other. Two strangers who shared the same husband, two women who should have been enemies but weren't. Denise, Patricia. She sat down across from me. Neither of us knew what to say. Where do you even begin a conversation like this? "Thank you for meeting me," she said finally. "I know this is hard." "We both need answers. Might as well get them together." A waitress came by. We both ordered coffee we wouldn't drink. Something to do with our hands. Something to fill the awkward silence. "Tell me everything," Patricia said. "From the beginning. I need to know everything." So I did. I told her about the health fair, about Raymond's corny pickup line and his charming smile, about our courtship, our engagement, our wedding, about 12 years of what I thought was a happy marriage. I told her about the travel schedule, every other week like clockwork, about the excuses and the explanations, about the 2 phones and the no social media and the dead parents who weren't really dead. I told her about the money, the $85,000 I had given him over the years, the business investments that never materialized, the bonuses that never came. I told her everything, and when I was done, she told me her side. Patricia met Raymond 20 years ago. They were both in college. Young love, she called it, the kind that burns fast and hot. We got married right after graduation. Too young, too fast, but I was so in love. I thought we would be together forever. They had their first child, Raymond Jr., a year into the marriage. Maya came 3 years later. Christian 3 years after that. For the first 5 years, things were good. Hard, but good. We were building a life, building a family. Raymond was working his way up in pharmaceutical sales. I was building my career in education. We were a team. Then things changed. About 13 years ago, Raymond got promoted, regional manager, had to travel more for work. At first, it was 1 week a month, then 2, then this every other week schedule that never changed. He said it was the nature of the job. He said he was sacrificing for us. He said it would pay off eventually. 13 years ago, 1 year before he met me. He had already been planning this before I ever existed in his life. I asked about the traveling, Patricia continued. I questioned it. We had 3 young children at home. I needed help. I needed my husband, but every time I brought it up, he made me feel guilty. She took a shaky breath. He said I was being selfish, said I didn't understand the pressure he was under, said if I really loved him, I would support his career instead of complaining about it. The same manipulation, the same gaslighting. He had used the same playbook on both of us. Did you ever suspect? I asked. Patricia was quiet for a long moment. There were moments, things that didn't add up, phone calls he would take in another room, receipts for restaurants I never went to. Once I found an earring in his car, not mine. He said it must have belonged to a colleague he gave a ride to. And you believed him. I wanted to believe him. I had 3 children with this man, 18 years of my life invested in this marriage. The alternative was too painful to consider. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. So I convinced myself I was being paranoid, being insecure, being that jealous wife who doesn't trust her husband. I buried my suspicions because I was too afraid of what I might find. The same story, the same experience. Raymond had used our love against us, used our trust, used our desire to believe the best about the man we married. The money, I said. Did he take money from you too? Patricia nodded slowly. Not as much as you. But yes, over the years, probably $60,000, business investments, unexpected expenses, his car payment when he was between commissions. Combined, we had given this man almost $150,000. $150,000 from 2 women who trusted him with their lives. But here's the thing, Patricia said, leaning forward. Raymond makes good money, real money. I've seen his pay stubs. So where did it all go? If he was taking from both of us on top of his salary, where is the money? That was the question. Where had Raymond been hiding our money while he bled us both dry? There's something else you need to know, Patricia said. Something I found out this morning. She pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot. Bank statement. Account I had never seen. My sister works at a bank, different branch, but she has access to the system. I asked her to look into Raymond's accounts. What she found made me sick. The number on the screen made my stomach drop. $340,000, hidden in an account neither of us knew about. He's been skimming from both households for years, a little here, a little there, building this secret account while we struggled to cover bills he claimed he couldn't afford. $340,000. While I worked double shifts, while Patricia raised 3 children mostly alone, while we both made sacrifices and went without so our husband could provide for our families. He had been stealing from us the entire time. But that's not all, Patricia said. Look at this. Another screenshot. Property records. A condo in Miami, purchased 8 years ago. Cash. In whose name? A woman named Simone Bradley, 28 years old, lives in Miami. I felt the room spin. Another woman. Looks like it. He's been going to Miami 4 or 5 times a year for conferences, staying at this condo, with her. 3 women. At least 3 women. 2 fake marriages and a girlfriend on the side. I thought I was going to be sick. I actually thought I might throw up right there in that coffee shop. How does someone do this? I whispered. How does someone live like this for 20 years? By being a sociopath, Patricia said flatly. By having no conscience. By seeing women as objects to be manipulated instead of people to be loved. She was right. Raymond wasn't a man who made mistakes. He was a predator, a con artist, a monster wearing a charming smile. What do we do? I asked. How do we handle this? Patricia's eyes hardened. The devastation was still there, but something else had emerged. Something cold. Something determined. We destroy him, legally, financially, completely. He thinks he's been running this game for 20 years. He doesn't know who he's dealing with. She pulled out a business card and slid it across the table. My cousin is a private investigator. She's already digging, and I have an attorney on standby. What about you? I thought about my sister circle. Lori at the hospital, my cousin V who did investigative work, Andrea who specialized in family law. I have people too, good people. Then let's put them to work. Raymond Carter has been playing us against each other without us even knowing. It's time we played together, against him. She reached across the table and took my hand, a gesture of solidarity from a woman who should have hated me, a promise of partnership from a fellow victim. We're not enemies, Denise. We never were. He wanted us to be enemies if we ever found out, wanted us fighting each other instead of fighting him, but that's not going to happen. I squeezed her hand back. No, it's not. That day, Patricia and I formed an alliance, not as rivals, not as the wife and the other woman, but as two warriors preparing for the same battle. Raymond Carter had no idea what was coming, and by the time we were done with him, he would wish he had never heard either of our names. I called an emergency meeting that same night. My sister circle, the women who had been there for me through everything, the women I knew I could trust with my life. Lori came straight from the hospital still in her scrubs. My cousin V drove in from across town, her investigator's notebook already out. Andrea showed up with a legal pad and a bottle of wine. "You're going to need this," she said, handing me the bottle. "Because what you're about to go through is going to be hell, but we're going to get you through it." We sat around my kitchen table, the same table where Raymond and I had eaten breakfast for 12 years, the same table where he had kissed me goodbye before leaving for his other life. I told them everything. The doctor's question, the hospital confrontation, the phone call from Patricia, the meeting, the hidden money, the Miami condo, the third woman. By the time I finished, Lori was crying. V was taking notes. Andrea was already making a list of legal options. "That son of a bitch," Lori said. "I knew something was wrong. I told you, Denise. I told you something wasn't right about him." "I know. I should have listened." "Don't do that," Andrea cut in. "Don't blame yourself. This man ran a professional con operation. This wasn't about you missing signs. This was about him being a master manipulator." She was right. I knew she was right. But it didn't stop the shame from burning in my chest. "What do we do now?" I asked. V looked up from her notes. "First, we investigate. I need to know exactly what we're dealing with, the full scope of his finances, all his properties, all his accounts, every woman he's been involved with." "Patricia's cousin is already digging. She's a PI too." "Good. I'll reach out to her. 2 investigators are better than 1. We can divide the work and cover more ground." Andrea was scribbling on her legal pad. "From a legal standpoint, you have options. Big options. First of all, your marriage isn't valid. He was already married when he married you. That's bigamy. A felony in this state. So I was never really his wife. Legally, no. But that actually works in your favor. You're not entitled to a divorce settlement. You're entitled to damages. Civil damages for fraud, for 12 years of deception, for every dollar he took from you under false pretenses." She looked at me seriously. "Denise, you could sue him for everything, and based on what you've told me, you'd win. What about Patricia? Can she do the same thing? Her situation is different. She was his legal wife. She'll file for divorce, but she can also sue for fraud, for financial manipulation, for all the money he hid from her. Between the two of you, you can take everything he has. And criminal charges. Bigamy is a felony. Wire fraud for moving money between accounts under false pretenses. Potentially identity fraud if he used fake documents. This man could go to prison, Denise. Real prison." The thought should have made me happy, but I felt nothing. Just emptiness. Just the hollow ache of everything I had lost. "Let's start digging," V said. "I need access to everything. Bank accounts, credit cards, tax returns, phone records, everything you can get your hands on." I had already started. The box of evidence I collected the night before, the second wallet, the third phone, the receipts and documents I found in his things. "There's something else," I said. "Patricia mentioned a hidden bank account, $340,000, and a condo in Miami in another woman's name." V whistled low. "That's significant. If we can trace that money, prove where it came from, that's slam-dunk evidence of fraud." "Can you do that?" "Girl, please. This is what I do. By the time I'm done, I'll know what Raymond Carter had for breakfast on any day you name." She wasn't bragging. V was the best in the business. She had taken down cheating husbands, embezzling business partners, and con artists of every stripe. Raymond didn't stand a chance. We worked through the night, sorting documents, making lists, building timelines. What we found made me sick. 12 years of bank statements. Every month his paycheck deposited into our joint account, and every month transfers out. Small amounts at first. 100 here, 200 there. But they added up. Over 12 years, Raymond had transferred almost $90,000 from our joint account to accounts I didn't know existed, on top of the $85,000 I had given him directly. Where was this money going? Lori asked. My guess, the hidden account, building up his escape fund while he bled both families dry. The credit card statements were worse. Charges for restaurants I never went to, hotels I never stayed in, jewelry I never received. One charge caught my eye, a jewelry store, 3 years ago. A purchase for $2,000. I never got anything that expensive from him. Not for Christmas, not for our anniversary, not ever. V pulled out her phone and started typing. What's the date on that receipt? March 15th. Patricia's birthday is in March. Raymond Jr. told me when I was gathering background information. He bought his other wife a $2,000 gift on her birthday, while I was working double shifts to cover our mortgage because he said he was short that month. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something. I wanted to drive to that hospital and finish what I started, but Lori held my hand, kept me grounded. Channel it, Denise. Use this anger. Build your case. That's how you hurt him. Not with your fists, with evidence. She was right. I knew she was right. The next few days were a blur of investigation. V and Patricia's cousin worked together sharing information, building a complete picture of Raymond's double life. What they found was worse than I imagined. The hidden account with $340,000, it had been growing for 15 years. Raymond had been skimming from both households since before I even met him. The Miami condo purchased 8 years ago. Raymond had been seeing Simone Bradley, the woman whose name was on the deed, for at least that long. Maybe longer. But here's what really got me. Here's what made me realize just how calculated this man was. Raymond had 3 separate phones. One for me, one for Patricia, one for Simone. 3 phones, 3 lives, 3 women who all thought they were the only one. He had 3 email accounts, 3 sets of calendars, 3 carefully constructed identities that never overlapped. His travel schedule wasn't random. It was precise, mathematically designed to maximize his time with each woman while minimizing the chance of getting caught. Mondays and Tuesdays with Patricia. Drive to work from her house. Establish presence. Then Wednesday through Friday with me. Sometimes the weekend with Simone in Miami if he could manage it. For 20 years he had been living this way. 20 years of lies. 20 years of manipulation. 20 years of treating women like chess pieces in his own personal game. This is sociopathic, V said when she presented her findings. This isn't a man who cheated and got caught up. This is systematic, premeditated. He's been running this con his entire adult life. Andrea agreed. I've handled hundreds of divorce cases. I've never seen anything like this. This man doesn't just need to be divorced. He needs to be prosecuted. We compiled everything into a file. Bank records, property records, phone records, credit card statements. Photos V had managed to obtain of Raymond with both Patricia and Simone at various locations over the years. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable. A complete record of 20 years of fraud and deception. What now? I asked. Andrea smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a lawyer about to destroy someone in court. Now we make him pay. Every single penny he stole. Every single lie he told. Every single day he wasted of your life. And the criminal charges? I've already spoken with a friend at the DA's office. They're interested. Very interested. Bigamy. Wire fraud. This is exactly the kind of case they love to prosecute. Patricia was on board. We had been talking every day, comparing notes, building our case together. 2 women who should have been enemies united against a common predator. I just want him to suffer, Patricia said during one of our calls. I want him to lose everything, his money, his freedom, his reputation, everything. He will. I promise you, Patricia, he will. Raymond was still in the hospital. His cardiac event had turned out to be serious. Stress-related, the doctor said. Anxiety and high blood pressure and years of living a lie catching up to him. Good. Let him lie there. Let him wonder what was coming. Let him spend his nights staring at the ceiling, knowing his empire of lies was crumbling. Because when he got out of that hospital, he was walking into a war zone. And we were ready. My sister circle, Patricia and her team, lawyers and investigators and women who refused to be victims. Raymond Carter thought he was the smartest man in every room. He thought he could manipulate anyone. He thought he was untouchable. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Raymond was released from the hospital 5 days after his collapse. He called me immediately, left voicemails, sent texts, showed up at the house. But I had changed the locks. The house was in my name. I had every right to lock him out of my own property. He stood on the porch banging on the door like a madman. Denise, please, let me in. This is my home. I watched him through the window but didn't open the door, didn't speak, just watched. Baby, please, I know you're in there. We need to talk. I can explain everything. Explain. That was his favorite word now, as if there was an explanation that could undo 20 years of lies. He banged on the door for an hour before giving up, left more voicemails, more texts. Baby, you're making a mistake. Everything I did for us. You don't understand the pressure I've been under. If you would just let me explain. I love you, Denise. I've always loved you. Patricia is the past. You're my future. I didn't respond to any of them, but I saved every single one. Evidence. More evidence for the case we were building. The next day, he tried a different approach. Flowers. A massive bouquet delivered to the hospital where I worked. The card read, I made mistakes, but my love for you is real. Please give me a chance to prove it. I threw the flowers in the trash in front of everyone. My colleagues didn't know the full story yet, but they knew something was wrong. They knew enough to not ask questions. 2 days later, he showed up at the hospital in person, walked right into the ICU like he belonged there. Security had to escort him out. I watched from the nurse's station as 2 guards took him by the arms and marched him toward the exit. Denise, please just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I didn't move, didn't flinch, just watched him get smaller and smaller until he disappeared through the doors. Lori stood next to me, her hand on my shoulder. You okay? I'm fine, better than fine, actually. Every time I see him, I feel less. The anger is fading, the hurt is fading. All that's left is cold determination. Good. Cold determination wins cases. Raymond's tactics escalated when he realized I wasn't going to crack. He started calling my friends, my church, anyone he thought might influence me. Pastor Williams called me one evening. That conversation still makes my blood boil. Sister Denise Raymond came to see me today. He's very troubled, very remorseful. He's asking for counseling for guidance. He wants to save his marriage. Pastor, did he tell you he's been married to another woman for 18 years? Did he tell you he has 3 children with her? Did he tell you our marriage was never legal because he was already married when he married me? Silence on the other end. That's what I thought. With all due respect, Pastor Williams, this is not a matter for spiritual counseling. This is a matter for lawyers and judges. I hung up before he could respond. I loved my church, but I wasn't about to let anyone guilt me into forgiving a man who had systematically destroyed my life. Raymond tried the family angle next. Somehow he tracked down my Aunt Ruby, my mother's sister, the only family I had left. She called me confused and concerned. Baby Raymond called me, said you kicked him out, said you won't talk to him. What's going on? I told her everything. By the time I finished, Aunt Ruby was ready to commit violence. That low-down, no-good, sorry excuse for a man. I never liked him, Denise. Never. Something always felt off about him. Too smooth. Too perfect. You never said anything. Would you have listened? She had a point. What do you need from me? Aunt Ruby asked. What can I do? Just support me. Believe me. Don't let him manipulate you into feeling sorry for him. Baby, the only thing I feel for that man is disgust. You do what you need to do. I'm with you 100%. Raymond's final manipulation attempt came 2 weeks after the hospital incident. He showed up at my door again, but this time he wasn't angry. He wasn't demanding. He was crying. Real tears, streaming down his face. His suit was wrinkled. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Denise, please, please, just hear me out. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. 5 minutes and then I'll leave you alone forever if that's what you want. Against my better judgment, I opened the door, not because I felt sorry for him, but because I wanted to look him in the eye. I wanted him to see that his tears meant nothing to me. Talk. He stepped inside, looked around at the house that used to be his home, the home he had forfeited the moment he said I do to another woman. I never meant for this to happen, he said. You have to believe me. When I met you, Patricia and I were having problems. I was going to leave her. I really was. But you didn't. The kids. It was always about the kids. I couldn't leave my children, but I couldn't leave you either. You were everything Patricia wasn't. You were my peace, my escape, my second chance. Your second chance is that what you call this, lying to me for 12 years, taking my money, making me believe I was your wife. You were my wife. In my heart, you were always my real wife. I laughed, actually laughed in his face. In your heart, what about in the eyes of the law? What about in the eyes of God? You stood in a church and made vows to me, and those vows were worthless because you had already made them to someone else. I know what I did was wrong, but I loved you. I still love you. Please, Denise, we can figure this out. We can start over. Start over. There is no starting over from this. There is no coming back from 20 years of lies. You don't even understand what you've done, do you? You're not sorry you hurt me. You're sorry you got caught. He tried to reach for me. I stepped back. Don't touch me. Don't ever touch me again. Denise, please. You want to know what happens now, Raymond? I'll tell you what happens. Patricia and I are working together. Yes, together. Your 2 wives. We have lawyers. We have investigators. We have evidence of every lie you've told, every dollar you've stolen, every law you've broken. His face went pale, that same ghostly white from the hospital. You're looking at divorce from Patricia, criminal charges from me. Bigamy is a felony, Raymond. So is wire fraud. So is the financial manipulation you've been running for 2 decades. You wouldn't. You couldn't do that to me. I could, and I will. You destroyed 2 families, Raymond. You stole money from women who trusted you. You made children believe their father was an honest man when he was nothing but a con artist. I walked to the front door and opened it. Get out of my house. And the next time you see me, it will be in court, where I will take everything you have, everything you stole, everything you thought you were so clever hiding. He stood there for a moment, tears still streaming. But the tears weren't affecting me. Nothing he could say or do would affect me anymore. I loved you, Denise. That was real. Whatever else I did, my love for you was real. Get out! He walked past me through the door, stopped on the porch and looked back. You'll regret this. When you calm down, when you think clearly, you'll realize we could have worked this out. The only thing I regret is the 12 years I wasted on you. Now get off my property before I call the police. He left, and I closed the door on Raymond Carter forever. That night, I called Patricia. He came to see me, tried all his tricks, crying, apologizing, promising things would be different. He came to see me too. Same script, same tears, same lies. Are you okay? She was quiet for a moment. You know what I am. For the first time in weeks, I actually feel okay. Because seeing him grovel, watching him try to manipulate his way out of this, it reminded me of who he really is. Not a man who made mistakes. A predator who got caught. Exactly. Are we ready to move forward with everything? I looked at the files spread across my kitchen table, the evidence, the testimony, the case that would destroy Raymond Carter. We're ready. Let's end this. The day of the hearing arrived on a cold Tuesday morning. I remember everything about that day, the way the sun cut through the clouds, the smell of coffee in the courthouse lobby, the sound of my heels clicking on marble floors. I had dressed carefully, professional, powerful, navy blue suit, hair pulled back, minimal makeup. I wanted the judge to see a woman in control, a woman who had been wronged but refused to be broken. Patricia met me outside the courtroom. She looked as composed as I felt. We had coordinated. Same energy, same determination. Two women walking into battle together. "You ready?" she asked. "Been ready for weeks. Let's finish this." We walked into that courtroom side by side. Two wives. Two victims. One united front. Raymond was already there, sitting at the defendant's table with his lawyer, a public defender. He couldn't afford private counsel anymore. We had frozen his assets. Every hidden account. Every secret fund. All of it locked up pending the outcome of this case. He looked terrible, lost weight, dark circles under his eyes. The suit he was wearing was wrinkled like he had slept in it. Gone was the smooth, confident man who had charmed me at that health fair 14 years ago. In his place sat a broken shell. Good. Let him be broken. Let him feel a fraction of what he put us through. Our legal team was impressive. Andrea sat at the plaintiff's table, files stacked neatly in front of her. Patricia's attorney Reginald was beside her. They had worked together seamlessly over the past weeks building an airtight case. The gallery was packed. Lori was there. V, Aunt Ruby. Miss Ernestine had even made the trip, sitting in the front row with her Bible in her lap. Patricia's family filled the other side. Her mother, her sisters, her cousin who had helped investigate. And in the middle, trying to be invisible, sat 3 teenagers. Raymond Jr., Maya, Christian, Patricia's children. Our children, in a way. The innocent victims of their father's lies. My heart broke for them. Whatever happened today, those kids would carry this trauma forever. Their father wasn't just a cheater. He was a fraud, a criminal, a man who had lied to them every single day of their lives. The judge entered. Honorable Patricia Montgomery, a black woman in her 60s with silver hair and eyes that had seen everything. She had a reputation for being fair but fierce. Exactly what we needed. This court is now in session. We are here to address multiple civil and criminal matters involving Raymond Marcus Carter. Let's begin with the civil proceedings. Andrea stood first. Your Honor, my client, Denise Carter, along with co-plaintiff Patricia Carter, is seeking damages for fraud, financial exploitation, and emotional distress. We will demonstrate that Mr. Carter engaged in a systematic pattern of deception spanning 20 years involving bigamy, theft, and psychological manipulation. Raymond's lawyer tried to object. Your Honor, my client maintains that while he made poor personal choices, there was no criminal intent. These were matters of the heart, not matters of law. Judge Montgomery looked at him over her glasses. Counsel, your client married 2 women simultaneously. That is by definition a matter of law. Save your arguments for when it's your turn. Proceed, Ms. Simmons. Andrea presented our case methodically. She started with the timeline. When Raymond married Patricia, when he met me, when he married me while still legally married to her. Your Honor, I submit Exhibit A. Marriage certificate for Raymond Carter and Patricia Williams dated June 15, 2004. She held up the document for the court to see. And Exhibit B, marriage certificate for Raymond Carter and Denise Thompson dated August 22, 2012, 8 years after his first marriage, a marriage that was never dissolved. The evidence kept coming. Bank records showing the hidden accounts, property records for the Miami condo, phone records proving he maintained 3 separate lives, credit card statements showing purchases for 3 different women. Over the course of 20 years, Andrea continued, Mr. Carter stole approximately $145,000 from these 2 women combined. He hid $340,000 in secret accounts. He purchased property in another woman's name using funds that should have belonged to his families. She turned to face Raymond directly. This was not a man who made mistakes. This was a con artist running a long-term fraud scheme with his wives as the victims. Raymond's lawyer tried to mount a defense. He talked about Raymond's difficult childhood, his fear of abandonment, his struggle with commitment. My client acknowledges that he handled his personal life poorly. But these were crimes of passion, not premeditated fraud. He loved both women. He simply couldn't choose between them. Judge Montgomery interrupted him. Counsel, are you seriously arguing that your client's inability to choose justifies 2 decades of deception, that loving 2 women excuses stealing from both of them? Your Honor, I'm arguing that context matters. My client is not a criminal mastermind. He's a flawed man who got in over his head. He's a flawed man who committed multiple felonies. Please continue, but I would advise you to find a more compelling argument. The defense had nothing. Every piece of evidence we presented was irrefutable. The bank records, the property documents, the phone logs. Raymond's own text messages to all 3 women declaring his love to each of us while lying to all of us. Then came the testimony. I took the stand first, swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Ms. Carter, Andrea began. Can you describe how you met the defendant? I told the story, the health fair, the charming smile, the whirlwind courtship, the proposal, the wedding, 12 years of what I thought was a happy marriage. And when did you discover the truth about Mr. Carter's other life? 6 weeks ago, in the emergency room of the hospital where I work, a covering physician asked my husband about a discrepancy in his medical records. A different wife listed as his emergency contact, Patricia Carter. What happened when you confronted your husband? He admitted everything, said he had been married to Patricia for 18 years, that they had 3 children together, that our entire marriage was built on lies. How did this revelation affect you? I paused, gathered myself, looked directly at the judge. Your Honor, I gave that man 12 years of my life. I gave him my heart, my trust, my money. I worked double shifts to cover bills he claimed he couldn't afford while he was hiding hundreds of thousands of dollars in secret accounts. I gave up the dream of having children because he kept saying the timing wasn't right, not knowing he already had 3 children with another woman. My voice cracked, but I kept going. I thought I was building a life with my husband. I was building a life with a ghost, a fiction, a man who never existed. And now I have to rebuild everything. My sense of self, my ability to trust, my faith in people. All because one man decided his lies were more important than my truth. The courtroom was silent when I finished. Even Raymond wouldn't look at me. Patricia testified next. Her story was even more devastating because it was longer. 20 years, 3 children, a lifetime of being the primary wife while never being the only wife. He missed our son's first steps because he was with her, Patricia said, pointing at me. Then she caught herself. I'm sorry, he was with Denise. Not her fault, his fault. He missed it because he was living his other life. She broke down when she talked about telling the children. How do you explain to a 17-year-old that his father has been lying since before he was born? How do you explain to an 11-year-old that Daddy's business trips were actually trips to another family? They looked at me like I had broken their world, but I didn't break it. He did. The children didn't testify. They were minors, and the judge ruled their written statements would be sufficient. But Raymond Jr., now 18, had chosen to submit a statement anyway. Andrea read it aloud. My father taught me how to ride a bike. He taught me how to throw a football. He taught me to always tell the truth, that a man's word is his bond. Every single one of those lessons was a lie, because while he was teaching me about honesty, he was living the biggest lie of all. I don't have a father anymore. I have a stranger who shares my last name, and I will spend the rest of my life wondering if anything he ever told me was real. Raymond finally broke, tears streaming down his face, shoulders shaking with sobs. But his tears came too late. 20 years too late. The testimony continued. Character witnesses, financial experts who explained the scope of Raymond's theft, the private investigators who had uncovered his web of lies. By the end of the day, the case against Raymond Carter was overwhelming, not just morally, legally. Judge Montgomery called a recess before the verdict, 1 hour to review the evidence and make her ruling. That hour was the longest of my life. I sat in the hallway with my sister circle around me. Patricia was nearby with her family. We didn't talk, didn't need to. We had said everything that needed to be said. Miss Ernestine took my hand. Whatever happens in there, baby, you already won. You found the truth. You stood up for yourself. You refused to let him break you. What if it's not enough? What if he gets away with it? She smiled, that wise old smile. Some things are bigger than courtrooms, baby. That man has already lost everything that matters. His family, his reputation, his self-respect. Whatever the judge decides, Raymond Carter is already destroyed. She was right. I knew she was right. But I still wanted justice. Legal, official, undeniable justice. The bailiff called us back in. The moment of truth had arrived. Judge Montgomery took her seat, looked out at the packed courtroom, then began to speak. In my 30 years on the bench, I have seen many cases of betrayal, infidelity, deception, broken vows. But I have never seen anything quite like this. She looked directly at Raymond. Mr. Carter, you did not simply cheat on your wife. You created an elaborate fiction and sustained it for 2 decades. You married 2 women, maintained 3 households, fathered children while lying to their mother about the existence of other children. You stole money from the women who loved you and hid it for your own benefit. Her voice hardened. This was not a crime of passion. This was a calculated, sustained fraud, and this court will treat it as such. She picked up her gavel. On the matter of the marriage between Raymond Carter and Denise Thompson. Carter, I find that marriage null and void due to the pre-existing legal marriage between Raymond Carter and Patricia Williams Carter. Ms. Thompson, you were never legally married to this man. You are entitled to the full return of all financial contributions made during the course of your fraudulent marriage, plus damages. She turned to the financial claims. Raymond Carter is ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $85,000 to Denise Thompson for documented financial contributions. Additionally, he is ordered to pay $150,000 in damages for fraud and emotional distress. I couldn't breathe. $235,000. On the matter of the divorce between Raymond Carter and Patricia Carter, divorce is granted on grounds of adultery and fraud. Full custody of the minor children is awarded to Patricia Carter. Raymond Carter is ordered to pay child support in the maximum amount allowed by law until each child reaches the age of majority. Patricia grabbed her mother's hand. All hidden assets discovered during the investigation, totaling $340,000, are to be divided equally between Ms. Thompson and Ms. Carter as restitution for funds misappropriated from both households. The gavel came down. Furthermore, based on the evidence presented, this court is referring the criminal matters to the district attorney's office with a strong recommendation for prosecution. The charges of bigamy and wire fraud are well supported by the evidence. Mr. Carter, I suggest you prepare yourself for criminal proceedings. Raymond collapsed, literally collapsed in his chair. His lawyer tried to steady him, but he was gone. The charming con man had finally run out of charm. Judge Montgomery stood. This court is adjourned. The gallery erupted. Patricia's family crying and hugging. My sister circle surrounding me. Miss Ernestine raising her hands to heaven. I looked across the courtroom at Raymond. He was staring at the table in front of him. Empty. Broken. Destroyed. I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No joy. Just a hollow sense of completion. It was over. After 20 years of lies, it was finally over. The criminal trial came 3 months later. Raymond had been released on bail, but his life was already over. No job, no home, no family. He was staying in a cheap motel on the edge of town, living off what little money he had managed to hide from our investigation. Not much, as it turned out. We had been thorough. The district attorney took the case seriously. Very seriously. Raymond Carter became an example. A warning to every man who thought he could deceive multiple women and get away with it. The charges were extensive. Bigamy in the first degree, wire fraud across state lines, filing false documents, tax evasion for failing to report income from multiple households. The DA added new charges we hadn't even considered. Raymond's public defender tried to negotiate a plea deal. The DA refused. This case was going to trial. The public needed to see what happens when a man treats marriage as a con game. I attended every day of that trial. So did Patricia. We sat together in this gallery, two women united by our shared experience, watching the man who had destroyed both our lives face the consequences of his actions. The prosecution was relentless. They brought in experts to explain the psychology of long-term deception. They brought in financial analysts to track every dollar Raymond had hidden. They brought in the other woman, Simone from Miami, to testify about her relationship with Raymond and her role in his scheme. Simone was interesting. 28 years old, beautiful. She had genuinely believed Raymond was a divorced businessman. He had told her his ex-wife was crazy, that he was rebuilding his life, that someday they would be together full-time. She had been a victim too, just like us. "I feel so stupid," she said on the stand. "He had an answer for everything. Every time I questioned something, he made me feel like I was being paranoid, like I was the problem." Sound familiar? The same playbook, the same manipulation. Raymond had run the same con on every woman he touched. The defense tried everything: mental health issues, childhood trauma, sex addiction. They even tried to argue that Raymond suffered from a dissociative disorder, that he genuinely believed he was living multiple separate lives. The jury didn't buy it. After 4 days of deliberation, they came back with their verdict: guilty on all counts, every single charge. The courtroom erupted when the foreman read the decision. Raymond sat motionless. He had known it was coming. We all had. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. The judge in the criminal case was Honorable Michael Thompson, older black man, former prosecutor, known for harsh sentences in fraud cases. He did not disappoint. "Mr. Carter, please rise." Raymond stood on shaky legs. He had aged 10 years in the past 6 months. The stress of losing everything had taken its physical toll. "I have reviewed the pre-sentencing report. I have considered the letters submitted on your behalf and against you. I have listened to the victim impact statements, and I have reached my decision." He paused. The courtroom held its breath. "For the charge of bigamy in the 1st degree, I sentence you to 3 years in state prison." Raymond swayed but didn't fall. "For the charge of wire fraud, I sentence you to 5 years in federal prison to be served consecutively." Consecutively, not concurrently. The sentences would stack. "For the charges of filing false documents and tax evasion, I sentence you to 2 additional years, also consecutive." 10 years. Raymond Carter was going to prison for 10 years. "Additionally, you are ordered to pay full restitution to all victims, including but not limited to Denise Thompson, Patricia Carter, and Simone Bradley. You will be registered as a fraud offender upon release, and you are permanently barred from entering into any legal marriage contract in this state." The gavel came down for the final time. "Bailiff, take the defendant into custody." I watched them handcuff Raymond, watched them lead him away through the side door, watched until he disappeared from view. Patricia reached over and took my hand. We sat there in silence as the courtroom emptied around us. "It's really over," she said. "It's really over." We had won. Justice had been served. Raymond Carter would spend the next decade of his life in a prison cell thinking about the lies he had told and the lives he had destroyed. But as I sat in that empty courtroom, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired, exhausted from months of fighting, drained from years of being deceived. The victory was hollow because no verdict could give me back the 12 years I had lost. No sentence could restore my ability to trust. No amount of restitution could heal the wounds Raymond had inflicted on my soul. But it was over. And now, finally, I could begin to heal. The months after the trial were about rebuilding, putting pieces back together, finding out who I was when I wasn't defined by a man who never really existed. The money came through faster than I expected. The court had ordered Raymond's hidden assets liquidated. Between my share of the restitution, the damages, and the settlement from the civil case, I received just over $300,000. It wasn't about the money. It was never about the money. But I would be lying if I said it didn't help. 12 years of my life given to a fraud. At least now I had something to show for it. I paid off my house, the house I had bought with my grandmother's inheritance. The house that had always been mine, even when Raymond lived in it. Now it was mine free and clear. No mortgage, no payments, just mine. I redecorated everything, Every room, every corner. I painted the walls colors I loved, bought furniture that reflected my taste, not compromises with a man who wasn't real. I threw away anything that reminded me of him, started fresh. My career took off in unexpected ways. The hospital promoted me to nurse manager. They said I had shown incredible resilience through personal adversity. They said I was an inspiration to other women in difficult situations. I didn't feel like an inspiration. I just felt like a woman who had survived something terrible. But I took the promotion, took the raise, started building the career I had put on hold for a man who didn't deserve my sacrifices. Therapy helped, twice a week for the first 6 months, then weekly, then every other week, processing the betrayal, the gaslighting, the systematic destruction of my ability to trust. My therapist called it reality abuse. Raymond hadn't just lied to me, he had made me question my own perception of truth. Every time my gut told me something was wrong, he had convinced me I was crazy, paranoid, insecure. Learning to trust myself again was the hardest part. Harder than the court case. Harder than the financial recovery. Rebuilding my relationship with my own instincts took longer than anything else. But I did it. Slowly. Carefully. I learned to listen to that voice inside me. The voice that had been trying to warn me for years. The voice I had silenced because I wanted to believe the lie. Patricia and I stayed in touch. Not best friends. The shared trauma was too heavy for that. But we checked in, supported each other, understood each other in ways no one else could. Her children were in therapy. All 3 of them. Raymond Jr. was in college now, throwing himself into his studies like his life depended on it. Maybe it did. Maybe drowning in textbooks was how he processed having a father in prison. Maya struggled the most. 14 when it all came out. Daddy's girl who discovered Daddy was a monster. She went through a dark period, acting out, pushing her mother away, angry at everyone and everything, but she was getting help. Patricia made sure of that. Whatever it cost, whatever it took, those children were going to survive this. Christian, the youngest, adapted the fastest. Kids are resilient that way. He knew his father did bad things. He knew it wasn't his fault. He was going to be okay. Simone, the Miami girlfriend, moved back to her hometown in Georgia. She sold the condo as ordered by the court and walked away from the whole mess. Last I heard, she was engaged to someone new, someone real, someone who wasn't living a double life. I hope she's happy. Despite everything, I hope she found what she was looking for. Raymond served his time. Is still serving it, actually. Federal prison for the wire fraud, state prison for the bigamy. He'll be in his 50s when he gets out. Old, broken, with nothing waiting for him. He tried to write to me once. A letter from prison. 3 pages of apologies and explanations and pleas for forgiveness. I burned it without reading past the first paragraph. There was nothing he could say that I needed to hear. Nothing that would change what he did. Nothing that would make me feel anything but disgust. Some wounds don't need closure. Some people don't deserve forgiveness. Raymond Carter was one of those people. My sister circle grew stronger through all of this. Lori, V, Andrea, Aunt Ruby, Miss Ernestine. These women had carried me through the darkest time of my life. They had believed me when I could barely believe myself. They had fought for me when I was too exhausted to fight alone. We started having monthly dinners, not to process trauma anymore, just to celebrate. Life, friendship, survival, good food and good wine and good company. Other women started joining us. Friends of friends who had been through their own betrayals. Women who had heard my story and found strength in it. Our little dinner group became a support network. A community of survivors. We called ourselves the Phoenix Circle because we had all been burned. And we had all risen from the ashes. Church was complicated. Pastor Williams had tried to counsel Raymond, had suggested I consider forgiveness and reconciliation. I couldn't go back to those services, couldn't sit in those pews and pretend everything was okay. But Miss Ernestine introduced me to a different congregation, a smaller church across town, a pastor who understood that some marriages aren't worth saving, a community that supported survivors instead of pressuring them to forgive. I found my faith again in that little church, not the faith that tells women to submit and suffer, The faith that tells women they are worthy, valuable, deserving of truth and respect and real love. And then about 8 months after the trial, I met someone. His name was Derek. We met at a hospital fundraiser. He was a physical therapist, divorced, no children, kind eyes, and a quiet strength. I wasn't looking for anyone, wasn't ready for anyone, but Derek didn't push, didn't rush. He was patient with my trust issues. He understood why I needed to move slowly. Our first date was coffee. Our second was a walk in the park. Our third was dinner at a restaurant where he let me choose the table, the one with the clear view of all the exits. He noticed. He always noticed. "You sit with your back to the wall," he said one evening. "You watch the door. You're always ready to leave." Is that a problem? No. It's a survival skill. You went through something terrible. Your instincts are trying to protect you. He reached across the table and took my hand. "I'm not going to hurt you, Denise. I'm not going to lie to you. But I know you can't just believe that because I say it. So, I'll prove it. Every day. For as long as it takes." I didn't fall in love with Derek quickly. I couldn't. But I fell in love with him eventually. Slowly. Carefully. One honest moment at a time. Because that's how you rebuild trust. Not with grand gestures. Not with promises. With consistency. With patience. With showing up every single day and being exactly who you say you are. Raymond had given me 12 years of lies. Derek gave me something better. The truth. Every day. Without fail. 1 year. That's how long it has been since that doctor asked the question that changed my life. 1 year since I discovered my husband had another wife, another family, another entire existence I knew nothing about. 1 year since my world collapsed, and 1 year since I started building a new one. I'm sitting on my porch as I tell you this. The porch of the house I own, the house that's finally truly mine. There's a glass of sweet tea in my hand, and the evening sun is warm on my face. Miss Ernestine is in the rocker next to me like she always is on Sunday evenings. We've made it a tradition. Sweet tea and wisdom on the porch. "You look peaceful, baby," she says. "More peaceful than I've ever seen you." I am peaceful, for the first time in years, maybe for the first time ever. And it's true. The anger is gone. The bitterness is gone. Even the sadness has faded to something manageable. What's left is peace. Hard-won, battle-tested peace. Derek proposed last month. Simple. Beautiful. No games. No secrets. Just a man who loves me asking if I would spend my life with him. I said yes. Not because I need a man. I don't. I've learned I can survive on my own. I've learned I'm stronger than I ever imagined. I've learned that my worth isn't determined by whether a man chooses me. I said yes because Derek is a partner, not a project. Because he loves the woman I've become, not the woman I used to pretend to be. Because with him, I can be completely authentically myself. We're planning a small wedding, just close friends and family. No elaborate ceremonies, no performances. Just 2 people who have been through enough to know what really matters. Patricia was the first person I told. She cried, happy tears. "You deserve this," she said. "After everything you deserve, real love." She's doing well, too. Went back to school for her master's degree, focusing on herself and her children. Not ready to date yet, and that's okay. Everyone heals on their own timeline. Raymond Jr. graduated college last spring, top of his class. He's going to law school. Says he wants to help people who have been defrauded. Says he wants to make something good come out of his father's destruction. Maya is in therapy and making progress. She started an anonymous blog about being the child of a double life. Thousands of people read it. She's turning her pain into purpose. Christian is just being a kid, playing sports, making friends, growing up. He'll carry scars, but he'll also carry strength. I think about Raymond sometimes. Not often, but sometimes. He's sitting in a prison cell right now, surrounded by concrete and metal and the consequences of his choices. I don't feel sorry for him. I don't wish him well. But I don't hate him anymore either. Hate takes too much energy. Energy I'd rather spend on people who deserve it. He took 12 years of my life. I refuse to give him another second. People ask me all the time how I didn't know. How I could be married to a man for 12 years and not see the truth. Here's what I tell them. I did see it. Parts of it. My gut told me something was wrong 100 times, but I didn't listen. I didn't trust myself. I trusted him more than I trusted my own instincts. That's what manipulators do. They don't just lie to you. They make you doubt your own reality. They make you think you're the problem. They convince you that your suspicions are paranoia, your questions are attacks, your intuition is insecurity. And when you love someone, you want to believe them. You want to believe the life you built together is real. You want to believe the man you married is who he says he is. So you ignore the red flags. You explain away the inconsistencies. You convince yourself that everything is fine because the alternative is too painful to face. I'm not ashamed of being deceived. Raymond Carter was a professional con artist. He had been running this game for 20 years. He knew exactly how to manipulate women, how to make us feel special, how to keep us from looking too closely at the truth. What I am ashamed of is not trusting myself, not listening to that voice inside me that knew something was wrong, not having the courage to ask the hard questions and demand real answers. So here's what I want you to take from my story. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. You're not crazy. You're not paranoid. You're not being unfair. Your gut knows things your heart doesn't want to accept. Listen to it. Document everything. If you have any suspicions, any doubts, any questions, start keeping records. Bank statements, phone records, schedules, and calendars. You hope you'll never need it, but if you do, you'll be glad you have it. Build your tribe. Find your sister circle. The women who will believe you, support you, fight with you. You cannot survive something like this alone. You need people in your corner who will stand with you no matter what. Know your worth. No man has the right to define your value. No relationship is worth sacrificing your self-respect. If someone is lying to you, manipulating you, making you feel less than you are, that person does not love you, no matter what they say. And finally, know that survival is possible. I know it doesn't feel like it when you're in the middle of the storm. I know it feels like your world is ending, like you'll never recover, like the pain will never stop. But it does stop. You do recover. You do survive. And on the other side of that survival is a life you can't even imagine right now. A life of peace, of truth, of real love. I'm living that life now. A year ago, I thought my existence was over. I thought Raymond had destroyed everything I was. He didn't. He destroyed the lie. He destroyed the fake life. He destroyed the prison I didn't know I was living in. And from those ruins, I built something real. My name is Denise Thompson, not Carter. I took my maiden name back. I am 40 years old. I am a nurse manager. I am a survivor of a 12-year fraud. And I am happy. Real, authentic, hard-won happiness. The kind that comes from knowing who you are. The kind that comes from trusting yourself. The kind that comes from walking through fire and coming out the other side stronger than you were before. The doctor asked my husband one question. He turned completely pale. And everything I thought I knew about my life turned out to be a lie. But here's what that doctor didn't know. He didn't just expose a fraud. He set me free. If you're watching this and something in your own life doesn't add up, if your gut is telling you something your heart doesn't want to hear, please listen. Don't wait for a doctor to accidentally expose the truth. Don't wait for the lies to collapse on their own. Start asking questions. Start trusting yourself. Start building your case and your support system because you deserve the truth. You deserve respect. You deserve real love. And if the man in your life can't give you those things you deserve, to walk away. I did. Patricia did. Simone did. And we survived. You can too. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here until the end. Thank you for being part of a community that supports women instead of silencing them. If this story touched you, if it made you think about your own situation, if it gave you courage you didn't have before, hit that subscribe button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Let me know I'm not alone. Let me know we're not alone, because the silence is what protects the liars. The silence is what keeps women trapped. The silence is what lets men like Raymond Carter destroy lives. Let's break the silence. Together. This is Denise Thompson, survivor. Phoenix, free. And my story is just beginning.